They promised accountability. They said the truth would surface. And now, following a killing that sent shockwaves through South Africa's media, music, and security sectors, police claim the first signs of movement have finally emerged. 2 individuals are currently being questioned. No arrests, no charges, just questioning. Yet in a country where prominent assassinations frequently fade into silence, even that small step is enough to change the mood. Warwick DJ Warras Stock is dead, gunned down in broad daylight in Johannesburg's CBD. He was many things: a broadcaster, an entrepreneur, a father. A man who lived in the public eye and was killed violently outside an 8-story building that his own company had been hired to secure. For days, South Africans asked the familiar question that follows every high-profile killing. Will this case end like all the others? Will anyone ever be held responsible? Police now say they are closer than they have ever been. National Police Commissioner Fanny Masemola pledged a breakthrough by Monday. On Monday morning, that pledge was addressed publicly when Brigadier Athlinda Mate confirmed that Gauteng detectives, led by Lieutenant General Ntombela, had brought 2 people in for questioning. The commitment, she said, had been fulfilled, but in South Africa, the word questioning is loaded. It brings hope, but also doubt. This was never a robbery. Investigators ruled that out almost immediately. Nothing was taken. Stock still had his firearm. His wallet was untouched. His phone was still on him. This was not disorder. It was deliberate. Surveillance footage shows a man with dreadlocks, wearing what appears to be a security uniform, approaching Stock and firing the fatal shot. A second person is visible nearby. The shooter remains calm, no hesitation, no panic. He walks up, fires, and leaves. The clip has become central to the investigation and deeply unsettling to the public, highlighting how easily uniforms, access, and perceived authority can be exploited. Because DJ Warras was not only a media figure, he was also a businessman operating in one of the most dangerous arenas in the country, inner-city security. Imperium Ops, the company he owned, was contracted to protect buildings in Johannesburg's CBD, an area shaped by hijacked properties, criminal syndicates, extortion rackets, and shadow economies that flourish where the state's presence is weak. Working there is not business as usual. It is conflict territory. According to Johannesburg MMC for Public Safety, Dr. Mgachini Chwaku, Stock had already taken steps many in that space eventually take. He sought legal protection, 5 protection orders, 5 individuals, 5 alleged threats. Chwaku has been direct. This, he believes, was a targeted killing, not driven by fame, but by business, by property, by money, by control. He was doing what security companies do, ensuring buildings were secured so people paid legally, Chwaku said. But building hijackers see that as cutting off their income. That explanation shifts the entire narrative. This was not about radio shows or podcasts or social media commentary. This was about territory. Johannesburg's CBD does not operate like suburban South Africa. Ownership is often disputed. Access is enforced by syndicates. Security companies become power structures. Contracts are valuable. Defiance is punished. And violence is frequently the final message. So when police say 2 people are being questioned, the real issue is not the number, but their position in that ecosystem. Are they the shooters, the intermediaries, the informants? Are they among the individuals named in those protection orders? Police are not saying, and that silence is intentional. Brigadier Mate chose her words carefully. No arrests, only questioning. Updates will come once investigations are complete. She commended Gauteng detectives for working under immense pressure, an unspoken acknowledgement of the scrutiny that follows every promise of justice in this country. South Africans have heard these assurances before. Press conferences, briefings, announcements that quietly dissolve. But this case feels different, not because success is guaranteed, but because too many layers are already exposed. There is video evidence. The killing appears calculated. Threats were recorded. The environment is well understood. And DJ Warras was not an unknown figure. His death triggered outrage not only because he was well known, but because he was familiar. A voice people felt connected to. When someone like that is executed in the middle of a city, it sends ripples far beyond the intended target. It warns journalists that speech carries risk. It tells business owners that contracts can become death warrants. And it reminds ordinary citizens that visibility offers no protection. At his memorial service in Santon, family and friends refused to let his story be defined by violence. His sister described him as love in human form, someone who spoke uncomfortable truths because silence, she said, was more dangerous than conflict. His son remembered a father who always found solutions, no matter how heavy the pressure. While tributes poured in, investigators continued their work quietly, methodically, under intense observation. Police confirmed early that Stock was armed. That detail matters. It shows he was alert, prepared, not careless. Yet none of that mattered against surprise and proximity. The shooter approached calmly. There was no struggle, no pursuit, just an execution. Now, as two individuals sit in interrogation rooms somewhere in Gauteng, the focus shifts from speculation to evidence. If arrests follow, the case will enter a far more difficult phase. One that will test not only SAPS, but the entire justice system. Because identifying suspects is only the beginning. Convictions in cases linked to organized crime, security syndicates, and inner-city power struggles are notoriously hard to secure. Witnesses vanish. Evidence is contested. Cases stall. There is also the uncomfortable reality that those being questioned may not be the architects, but the expendable layers, people who know enough to carry out orders, but not enough to be protected. That is why this moment matters. South Africa is watching how far investigators are willing to go. Will the trail stop with the gunmen, or will it follow the money, the contracts, the threats, the protection orders? Will it expose how deeply criminal networks have embedded themselves in legitimate security operations? For years, experts have warned that the boundary between private security and organized crime is fading. Armed patrols, VIP protection, building security firms operating legally in areas where state authority barely exists. It is a system vulnerable to abuse and deadly when disputes escalate. DJ Warras worked within that system, and those close to the investigation say he understood the danger. He sought court protection, he documented threats, he knew the risks, and he was killed anyway. That fact alone should unsettle anyone who believes legal paperwork is enough to keep you safe in lawless spaces. By Monday, police promised progress. By Monday, they delivered, at least on record. What follows will determine whether this marks the start of accountability or simply another moment when the truth briefly surfaced before slipping back into South Africa's long, familiar darkness.